Wine drunk, my wife said, "You're pathetic. I only stayed with you because I didn't think I could do better. My friends laugh at how you tip waitresses like you're a big shot. You're a clown with a credit card." She sipped the $240 bottle of Bordeaux I bought for our anniversary, then smirked. Months passed, and I learned silence was the deadliest weapon. I'm 52. My name's Malcolm. I've lived in Westport, Connecticut most of my adult life, grew up in Stamford, went to school in Rhode Island, ended up back here after marrying a woman who seemed to shine brighter than anyone I'd ever met. Her name is Noelle. She's 49, and we've been married for 22 years. No kids, by choice at first, then by circumstance. And then by the time we considered trying again, the moment had passed. We filled our time with weekend trips, house projects, wine tastings, volunteering here and there. You'd think after 2 decades of sharing space and life, I'd know who I was married to. Apparently, I didn't. This all started about a year ago, on our anniversary. October 4th, 22 years of marriage, and I thought I'd make it special. We hadn't been out much. COVID, work stress, life. I made a reservation at Gabriel Cruther in Manhattan. Made sure we had a car service so she wouldn't have to worry about trains or parking. I even called ahead and told them it was our anniversary. I remember she wore a black silk blouse and these pearl earrings her mother gave her. I wore the navy blazer she always said made me look like a man with a yacht, minus the sea legs. I laughed, she rolled her eyes, and for a moment in the car ride, it felt like us. We were seated by the windows. The place was beautiful, soft lighting, candles, gentle music. Noelle scanned the wine list like she was in a jewelry store. I let her choose. She went for a 2010 Bordeaux. I didn't blink at the price, $240. Anniversary, right? You go big. We toasted. To us, I said. She clinked her glass, but didn't smile. To enduring, she replied, sipping. That should have been my first red flag. The first part of dinner was quiet. She picked at the foie gras, commented on how the scallops were overcooked, complained about the server being slow. I made small talk. Talked about work, the garden back home, the neighbor's dog who kept digging up our tulips. Then I said something stupid. I leaned forward and said, "It's nice to be out again, you know? Just us. Feels like old times." She stared at me for a second, then tilted her head. Her expression softened, but not in a warm way. More like a parent about to explain to a child why Santa isn't real. And then she said it. "You know what's funny?" I nodded, unsure. "You're pathetic." Sip of wine. Calm. Steady. "I only stayed with you because I didn't think I could do better." I blinked. She didn't stop. "My friends? They laugh about you. They think it's hilarious how you tip waitresses like you're some kind of big shot. What do you think that does? Impress them?" She scoffed. "You're a clown with a credit card." Then, another sip, and a smirk. Like she was proud of herself. Like she'd been holding it in for years. I didn't say a word. I looked down at my fillet, which suddenly tasted like sawdust. I remember watching the condensation run down the side of my water glass. Her voice, sharp as glass, echoed in my ears. We didn't talk much after that. I paid the check, signed the receipt. She didn't thank me. The ride home was dead silent. She scrolled through her phone while I stared out the window, watching the city lights blur into smudges on the glass. That night, something broke in me, and the days that followed only widened the cracks. She barely spoke to me, stayed out late, came home reeking of perfume that wasn't hers. Different energy, different smiles. I didn't recognize the woman brushing her teeth beside me anymore. I didn't confront her. I didn't scream or cry or throw her suitcase out onto the lawn like some movie scene. I just watched, observed. I went cold. One night, she left her phone on the kitchen counter when she went upstairs. It buzzed twice. Curiosity got the better of me. Can't stop thinking about last night. Miss you already. Contact name, Camillo. I stared at it for a long time. My hands didn't even shake. I just took a picture of the messages with my own phone and put hers back exactly where she left it. That was the start of something new for me. I didn't just want revenge. I wanted clarity. I started quietly collecting. Texts. Receipts. Her call logs. Dates she said she was with Meryl, but was actually at a hotel in Norwalk. I created a digital folder. I even bought a burner phone and installed a voice recorder app when she talked to Camillo in the kitchen, not knowing I was on the back deck, listening through the screen. Meanwhile, I started planning. Financially, legally. Called up Nolan, an old friend from work who went through a BR-Tal divorce 3 years ago. He gave me the name of his lawyer, Dina Hargrove. She had the personality of a tax auditor and the instincts of a predator. "I want to protect myself," I told her in our first meeting. "I don't want to be a doormat. I also don't want to blow up my life unless I have to." She nodded. "You won't have to blow it up, but you might have to burn down some parts of it." That line stuck with me. The most surreal part was pretending like everything was fine. I made coffee in the mornings, kissed her cheek before she went off to her fake yoga classes. I nodded when she said she was just so tired and needed to lie down early. I played dumb when she joked about how Camillo knew how to cook a proper steak, as if she was talking about a coworker and not the guy she was sleeping with behind my back. Then one day, I found a sealed envelope tucked behind the recycling bin. It was addressed to a law office in Albany. It was a draft of a divorce petition, her version. In it, she claimed emotional neglect. She wanted the house, the cars, the lake property, full rights to her pension, spousal support, claimed I was controlling, dismissive, and verbally abusive. I sat there in the garage for over an hour, just holding it in my hands. She was going to divorce me. Quietly, ruthlessly. She wanted to strip me of everything and walk away clean. That's when I stopped being passive. I froze our joint account, rerouted my direct deposit. I made moves behind the scenes, transferring assets she didn't know about into safe accounts. I removed her name from the deed on the lake house, something I was legally able to do because of how we'd set up the LLC years ago. She didn't notice a thing. I waited 2 more weeks, until I had everything I needed. Then, on a rainy Thursday in late November, I served her divorce papers, accompanied by a countersuit, with full documentation, receipts, text messages, photos, audio recordings, everything. I left the manila envelope on the kitchen counter, propped up next to the fresh flowers I'd bought the day before. My signature was the last thing on the paperwork. When she walked in from Pilates or Camillo, I was sitting at the table with a cup of tea, flipping through an old issue of The Atlantic. She saw the envelope, picked it up. "What's this?" she asked. "You tell me," I said. She opened it. "Read the first few pages." Her face went pale. "What the F? I know everything," I said calmly. "I've known for months." You can't," she sputtered. "I already did." She sank into a chair. For the first time in a long time, she looked small. She sat there, staring at the papers like they were written in a foreign language. Her mouth opened and closed, but no words came. I took another sip of tea and just watched her, the way you watch a deer after it's realized it's already been hit. "Noelle," I said finally, "you've been preparing to gut me." Quietly. I just got there first. Her fingers trembled slightly as she flipped through the documents. "You've been spying on me," she said finally. "Recording me? Reading my texts?" I raised an eyebrow. "You were sleeping with someone else. You were planning to lie in court to take my house. And you're asking me about ethics?" She slammed the papers down. I wasn't going to actually go through with it. It was just a draft. "Save it," I said, more tired than angry. "You were halfway out the door. You don't get to act betrayed now." She didn't argue that. She just sat back and looked around the kitchen like she'd never really seen it before. The same room we painted together. The same place we danced to old records during a blackout. Now it felt like a stranger's house. "I gave you my best years," she said bitterly. I laughed. Actually laughed. "You gave me your best manipulation. And I let you. For years. But not anymore." She stood up and paced. "Camillo isn't who you think he is. It wasn't serious. I was just, I don't know. I was unhappy." "You were unhappy?" I repeated. "You could have told me. Or left. But you stayed and lied. Over and over." She pressed her hands to her face. "I didn't know how to fix us. I didn't even know if I wanted to." I sat back in my chair. "Then why didn't you leave before you decided to torch the whole house on your way out?" Silence. That thick, suffocating silence that had become our third roommate. "I didn't think you had it in you," she whispered. I looked at her, finally seeing her for what she was. Not just the woman I loved for over 2 decades, but the person who had been quietly dismantling the life we built while I thought we were still in the same story. "That," I said, "was your first mistake." That night, she slept in the guest room. Or at least, that's where she went. I didn't check. I didn't care. I didn't sleep either. I stayed in the living room with the TV on mute, letting the bluish light wash over the furniture, the walls, the framed photos of a life that no longer made sense. I looked at one from our 10th anniversary in Vermont. We were sitting on a fence overlooking a vineyard. I had my arm around her, and she was laughing into my neck. I remember that day. It was raining that morning, and we almost canceled our wine tasting. But we didn't. We laughed all day. That version of us. Gone. I should have known something was wrong the year she stopped singing along to music in the car, or when she stopped asking me to dance in the kitchen. But I thought marriages had ebbs and flows. I thought this was a dip, not a sinkhole. In the weeks that followed, things got messy. She hired a lawyer of her own, and the tone of everything shifted. She went from guilt to fury real fast, accused me of ambushing her, of setting her up. I kept my cool, responded only through lawyers. No more conversations unless absolutely necessary. I stopped grocery shopping for both of us. Stopped checking the mailbox. Stopped asking her if she was coming home late. Every time she tried to bait me, passive-aggressive comments, slamming doors, loud calls with her lawyer in the next room, I just walked away. But I wasn't just playing defense. I had already secured every financial document, every photo, every email I needed. And my lawyer? A beast in heels. She walked me through every step, warned me of every tactic Noelle might try. And try she did. She claimed emotional distress. She said I was mentally manipulative. Tried to paint herself as a woman trapped by a cruel, silent husband. It was almost impressive, the performance she gave in the mediation meeting. Until Dina pulled out the printouts. The audio. The timeline of deceit. The mediator looked at Noelle like she'd swallowed a lemon. Noelle didn't even try to defend herself after that. Just sat there stiffly while the walls she'd built crumbled around her. Back at home, we barely existed in the same house. We stopped talking altogether, like two ghosts haunting the same space. Meals were separate, doors closed more often than not. It felt like we were waiting for something to give, some final blow that would end it all. Then one afternoon, I came home early and found her in the kitchen crying. Hard, ugly sobs that shook her whole body. She didn't hear me come in. She was leaning against the counter, wiping her face with a dish towel. I didn't say anything. I just stood there in the doorway, watching the woman who once stood in the same spot, humming and sipping coffee, now unraveling. I don't know if she was crying because she regretted what she did or because she got caught, but I walked past her, got a glass of water, and walked back out. The silence between us, once cold, now felt radioactive. After that afternoon in the kitchen, something shifted in her. Not in a warm or apologetic way. No, this wasn't some coming to Jesus moment. It was more like she realized she'd lost control of the narrative. And people like Noelle, they don't do well when they're not the one holding the pen. The crying stopped the next day. No more late-night pacing. No more slamming cabinets or muttering just loud enough for me to hear. It was like someone flipped a switch. She went calm. Polite, even. "Morning," she said one Thursday while pouring coffee. No sarcasm. No venom. Just casual. Like she hadn't tried to emotionally bankrupt me 2 weeks prior. I nodded. "Morning." Then she smiled. Not wide. Not friendly. More like a poker player across the table. And in that instant, I knew something was coming. I called my lawyer that afternoon. "She's going to try something," I said. "She's being nice." Dina didn't even hesitate. "Tell me what she's doing." "Everything. Even if it seems small." That weekend, I noticed she cleaned out the liquor cabinet. Not suspicious on its own. She always took pride in her little wine corner, but she took everything. The $80 bottle of scotch I got from a client. The tequila I bought during that vacation in Mexico. Even the dusty port that neither of us liked but kept around for guests. Then she emptied out the second walk-in closet. Hers, mostly. Shoes. Clothes. Jewelry boxes. All gone. She didn't pack while I was home, and I didn't hear a thing. One day it was full, and the next it looked like it had never been touched. She was moving things out, quietly. And then came the real blow. One Tuesday morning, I got a text from our financial advisor, Jim Latchley. Been with him for over a decade. "Hi Malcolm. Just confirming. Did you request the transfer of $42,000 from the joint investment account into a personal checking?" I froze. No, I absolutely did not. I called him immediately. He apologized, said he flagged it because it seemed out of character, and when he tried calling Noelle to confirm, she didn't answer. The request came from her email, but something felt off to him. I thanked him 100 times. Told him not to move anything unless it came with my voice on the phone. Then I called Dina. "That," she said, "is fraud. And now it's on record." 2 days later, she sent a formal notice to Noelle's lawyer. Not just a slap on the wrist, a warning shot. And if it happened again, we'd be pressing charges. The silence in the house after that was thick. Not just uncomfortable, charged, like the air before a lightning storm. She didn't speak to me for 3 days. Then, out of nowhere, on a Sunday evening while I was making dinner, she came into the kitchen, barefoot, hair still wet from a shower, and said, "I think we should talk." I kept chopping carrots. "About what?" "About us." "There is no us, Noelle. There's just cleanup." She leaned against the counter. "I know you hate me right now. I don't blame you." I stopped cutting. Looked at her. "You don't hate someone you don't care about anymore." She flinched. Just slightly. "Still," she said, "I think we rushed into lawyers. We could have tried therapy. Or something." I almost laughed. "You mean before or after you started sleeping with Camillo? Or while you were drafting your fantasy divorce demands? When would therapy have fit in your schedule?" "I made mistakes," she said. "A lot of them. But I was lost. I've been unhappy for years." I stared at her. "And your solution was to burn the house down with both of us inside." She looked away. Then she said something I didn't expect. "I didn't think you'd make it this hard." I didn't say anything. She sighed. "I thought you'd just let it go? Let me take what I needed and move on." That broke something in me. "Let me get this straight," I said. "You thought you could lie, cheat, steal, and walk away with half my life in a suitcase, and I'd just wave goodbye. Are you insane?" She didn't answer. We stood there for a long time. Just breathing. Just existing. Then she walked away. The next morning, her lawyer emailed mine. No words. No explanations. Just an updated list of requests. Smaller now. Much smaller. No mention of the house. No demand for spousal support. Just a quiet, pathetic plea for her car, some furniture, and a modest slice of the savings. She was retreating, but she still didn't apologize. Not once. And that's when it really hit me. This wasn't about guilt or regret. It was about losing. Noelle didn't regret what she did. She regretted that it didn't work. She regretted that I didn't roll over and let her win. She moved out quietly. Took her car and a few boxes of clothes. Said she was going to stay with her sister in Albany. Left a note on the counter. I hope someday you'll forgive me. I wasn't who you thought I was. I wasn't who I thought I was, either. I read it once, then tossed it in the trash. But the house? It still smelled like her perfume. Her hair still clogged the shower drain in the guest bathroom. Her forgotten yoga mat still leaned against the hallway closet. I didn't touch any of it for a while. After she left, the house felt hollow in a way I wasn't ready for. Not peaceful, not free, just silent. That type of silence that presses against your ears, makes your thoughts louder. Her scent still lingered on the throw pillows, and her absence filled up every room like smoke after a fire. I didn't touch anything for days. Didn't clean. Didn't cook. Just lived in it, like a museum of what used to be. I'd walk past the front hall and see the spot where she used to dump her keys. Still empty. The top drawer in our bedroom was open a crack, where she always kept her scarves. Empty. I'd reach for the second coffee mug out of habit, then remember there was no one to hand it to anymore. And yet, even with her gone, I could still feel her watching me. Not literally, of course, but that judgment, that quiet smirk from across the dinner table, that feeling like I was never quite good enough, that hadn't moved out yet. A week after she left, I got a text from her sister. Yvonne, I know it's not my business, but if you ever want to talk, or just need someone to hear your side, I'm here. I'm sorry for what she did. I didn't know. I stared at it for a while before replying. Thank you. I appreciate that. I don't know what to say yet. She wrote back. You don't have to say anything. Just know you weren't the only one she fooled. That sat with me. Maybe longer than it should have. Mediation continued. My lawyer handled most of it, but I had to be present for a few Zoom sessions. Noelle always had that same face. Controlled, blank, like she was trying hard not to blink too fast or let any emotion slip through. Her lawyer, to his credit, didn't make things worse. He clearly knew she didn't have much ground left to stand on. At that point, we were negotiating details. Furniture. A few antiques she'd claimed were family heirlooms. I gave her most of it, not because I was being generous, but because I no longer wanted anything that reminded me of her hands. During one session, she spoke directly to me. I didn't do this because I wanted to hurt you, she said. I looked up from the notepad I'd been scribbling on. Then why did you do it, Noelle? She didn't answer. She looked at the screen, her own reflection staring back at her. I don't know. Dina muted our mic, leaned over to me, and whispered, she's either playing dumb or finally being honest. I didn't say anything, because honestly, I didn't know which would be worse. One night, around 1 a.m., I got a call. Unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. The next morning, I checked it. It was Camillo's wife. I don't know if you care, she said, her voice tired but steady. But I thought you should know. He left. He just packed up and left. Didn't even try to apologize. You weren't the only one with a blind spot, Malcolm. I believed his stories, too. She paused, took a breath. I hope you burn the whole thing down and build something better. That voicemail stuck with me for days. Because as much as I didn't care about Camillo, hearing from his wife reminded me, I wasn't alone. People get lied to every day. People marry mirages. Sometimes, you don't see it until it's too late. After she left, I started running. Nothing fancy, just around the block at first, then longer. It was more about movement than fitness. I needed to move, or I'd stay frozen in the same mental space forever. I started sleeping better, eating again, listening to music. Real music, not the curated jazz she always played to feel cultured. Actual music with soul and teeth. I dug out old playlists from my college years. Stuff I hadn't listened to since I was the version of me I actually liked. And then one day, without thinking about it, I cleaned out the guest room, stripped the bed, boxed up her leftover makeup and hair products, found a half-used bottle of her perfume, and sprayed it into the garbage bin before sealing the bag. It felt final. Not the end. Not yet. But something final, just the same. One afternoon in March, I was at the grocery store when I ran into Yvonne. I hadn't seen her in years, not since a family Thanksgiving maybe 7, 8 years ago. She looked the same. Except now, her eyes carried a softness I don't remember noticing before. She smiled when she saw me. Malcolm. Hey. Hey, Yvonne, I said. Wasn't expecting to see you here. We talked. Just small talk at first. Weather, groceries, the rising price of eggs. Then she asked, how are you holding up? I gave her a little smile. Better than I thought I'd be. Worse than I pretend to be. She nodded. That sounds about right. She hesitated before asking. Can I say something without it being weird? Sure. You didn't deserve what she did to you. I know that's not helpful, but I need to say it. I didn't know how to respond. I just nodded. And, she added, if you ever need someone to talk to who isn't your lawyer or therapist, I'll make a mean cup of coffee. I thanked her. Told her I might take her up on it. We parted ways. But for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel completely alone walking back to my car. The divorce finalized in early June. It wasn't dramatic, not in court anyway. By then, Noelle had no fight left in her. Or maybe she realized it was over before it really began. I signed the final papers in Dina's office on a warm Tuesday afternoon, the kind where Connecticut tries to convince you it's not humid most of the year. Dina slid the papers into a manila envelope, sealed it, and smiled. "That's it," she said. She walks away with the car, a fraction of what she asked for, and some furniture you didn't even want. I raised an eyebrow. "And I keep everything else." "You keep your house, your pension, your accounts, and, more importantly, your dignity." I stood up and extended my hand. "Thank you for everything." She took it. "You didn't just win this, Malcolm. You survived it. That's more than most people can say." The first thing I did as a divorced man was take a weekend trip to Vermont. Just me. I stayed at a quiet bed and breakfast in Middlebury, a place I'd bookmarked years ago but never got around to visiting. I spent 2 mornings walking through open trails, stopping to take pictures of wildflowers and quiet hills. I hadn't taken a real breath in months. Hell, maybe years. It felt like I was meeting myself again after a long absence. And here's where the revenge part comes in. Not loud, not cruel, just right. About a month after the divorce was finalized, I received a formal email from a luxury real estate firm Noelle used to follow religiously, something about pre-sale listings for a new waterfront development in Fairfield. I don't know if she signed up for their newsletter or if her social media got her tracked into their lead funnel, but her name popped up. Alongside that, a flag that the listing she was interested in had been recently sold. To me, I'd known the developer through work contacts. It was a small cluster of 4 homes, and one of them, a 2-bedroom, ultra-modern unit with a private dock and an outdoor soaking tub, went up for private sale in late July. I paid cash. Because over the course of our marriage, while she saw herself as the future trophy wife of some stockbroker or restaurateur, I'd quietly invested in slow, boring, reliable things. Municipal bonds, real estate, dividend stocks, things she used to roll her eyes at. "You're not trying to grow, Malcolm," she'd once said. "You're trying to survive." Turns out, survival has better long-term returns. The same week she moved into a shared 2-bedroom with her sister, who, by the way, called me 3 separate times just to say she was so done with Noelle's drama. I moved into a sleek, sun-drenched property 15 minutes from the harbor. But I didn't post about it. I didn't flaunt it. I just lived. And that's what got her. The real moment of revenge came not from what I did, but from how little I needed to do. In September, she emailed me. No subject line. Just, "I heard about the house. Is it true? You bought that property in Fairfield." I didn't respond. A week later, she emailed again. "It's beautiful. I always loved that style. I didn't think it'd go so fast. You always were better with timing than I gave you credit for." Still, I didn't reply. Then, in October, around the 1-year mark from our fateful anniversary dinner, I received a handwritten letter. She must have driven out and dropped it in my mailbox herself, because there was no postage. It was 4 pages long. She told me she regretted what she said that night, that she was wine-drunk and angry and insecure, that she'd gotten used to blaming me for everything because it was easier than looking at her own decisions. She said Camilla was a mistake, that he ghosted her within weeks of the divorce being filed, that she felt hollow now, unmoored, and that she wasn't writing to win me back, but to ask if we could have coffee, even just as people who used to care about each other. I sat on my deck with the letter in my lap, watching sailboats drift along the water. Then I folded the letter and tossed it into the fire pit beside me. No reply. That was my revenge. Silence. The same silence she gave me after gutting me over dinner. The same silence she gave me when she was sneaking out to be with someone else. The same silence I weaponized not to hurt her, but to protect myself. Because when someone tries to wreck your world, the most powerful thing you can do isn't scream or destroy them. It's to move on like they never mattered. Nowadays, I live quietly. I read more. I cook. I joined a kayaking group that meets every other Saturday. I even took up photography, real photography, not just phone snapshots. There's a woman named Joan I met at the local bookstore who teaches a creative writing group, and we've gotten coffee a few times. Nothing serious. Just warm company. No pretense. Sometimes I think about Noelle. About how we danced in the kitchen once. About how I used to believe love meant sacrificing your pride to keep someone happy. But I don't miss her. What I miss is the version of me that thought I needed someone like her to feel worthy. That version is gone. The one I found after the fire? He's quieter, wiser, still learning how to breathe deep. But he's here, and he's finally free.